6 books, 6 wildly different reading experiences, but only a couple new favorites. Can you guess which? Let's break these down, see what sets them apart, and if you like curated book recommendations in fantasy, science fiction, and lit RPG, stick around. Hey, welcome back to BellTube. I am Brian. Today we're talking about the July reading. What did I read in July? Well, there's 6 books. 3 of them I did on physical and 3 of them I listened to on audio. So we're going to start with physical, we're going to move to the audio, we're going to talk about some videos that I did on the channel in July, and of course, and most importantly for many of you, we are going to timestamp everything. So if there's some books you don't care about, you can flip right through to the next timestamp. We'll also do a one for the road today. I've got some surprises coming up. We'll get into all that. First, let's start with the books. All right, first book I read physically in July, J.C.M. Burns, book 4 in the Hybrid Helix series. This one's called Shadow of Hyperion. What can I say about this series, you guys? I love it. This is superheroes in space. This is sentient space stations. I just did that right on the first try. I'm kind of self-impressed with myself there. Sentient space stations and sentient spaceships as well. This is just a blast of a series. There are deep themes in this book, so it's not just all comic relief, but there are tons of moments of irreverence and great humor in this series. And for me, the Hybrid Helix has worked much like the Dresden Files, much like Alex Ferris has for me. Not in that they're, those are urban fantasies and this is, like I said, kind of superheroes in space, but in the fact that they're very quick reads, they're a lot of fun, and they're perfect for somebody who's used to big classic epic fantasy or huge space opera over in the science fiction realm. These books are great in between. It kind of resets the mind a little bit. I had a blast. I really do recommend the Hybrid Helix series to pretty much everybody, and book 1 is called Wistful Ascending. Start there. If you don't like it, chances are the series won't be for you, but I'm going to say about 9 out of 10 people that I've recommended book 1, Wistful Ascending, to have gone on to read the second book, so that should tell you something good about Hybrid Helix series. Let's move on to the next one, and that next one, I read this during jury duty. Yeah, every 4 years, us here in Minnesota, we get, us here? I don't know if that's good grammar, but this next author could probably tell me if it is. We get a 3% chance of getting called for jury duty every 4 years, and I guess this year was the time I should have bought a Powerball ticket, because yeah, I was picked for jury duty. Did I serve the whole 2 weeks? Did I get out of it? You guys know me pretty well, at least some of you viewers have been around for a long time. I think we'll discuss jury duty experience in a live stream rather than do it in a monthly wrap-up, but long story short, brought this with me to jury duty. This is While Darkness Gathers by Dr. Philip Chase, fellow Quilluminati member. Did I like this book? Well, I have to say, first of all, the people in the jury assembly room thought it was cool that I brought a book with a dragon on a cover. I want to welcome some of you guys to the channel because I know some of you guys subscribed after, we talked a little bit. But this is a fantastic book. This is a standalone book after his Attn trilogy. So, yes, you need to read the Attn trilogy first, then you get into this book. Now, here's what I just appreciated so much. It was kind of hard to focus on jury duty, especially sitting in an assembly room with hundreds of people waiting to hear if you're going to get called down on a case. Philip Chase, in this particular book, his chapters, he took kind of like a page out of John Gwynn's playbook in that the chapters are like 5 to 6 to 7 pages long. It was terrific. I got to read a book, listen to an announcement, read more of the next chapter. But more importantly, how was the content? Yeah, the chapters were short. What about what's in the chapters? Again, fantastic. I had such a great time with this book. It's set 16 years after the events of the Attn trilogy. So yes, you do need to read the Attn trilogy first, not only because this book might, not make sense too much without having read it, but do yourself a favor. The Attn trilogy rocks. If you like epic fantasy, if you like Lord of the Rings, there's nothing about, Philip's The Attn trilogy you're not going to like. It's very well realized world building. It's incredibly cool magic system. The character development is terrific. And all of the things that you're going to appreciate about this book are set up in the Attn trilogy. This reads really quickly, but Philip, thank you so much for a shorter book because I had a blast with it. And not only that, we got some new members of the BellTube community here, so welcome. Next book I read. This is also big epic fantasy. This is book 4 in the Wars of Light and Shadow by the one and only Janny Wirtz. We're talking about Fugitive Prince. These covers are just amazing. Janny's her own artist. She writes everything, obviously. This book is really cool. I'm not going to hold it up the whole time because the thing is quite heavy, but let me just explain a little bit about my experience with Fugitive Prince and the Wars of Light and Shadow as a whole, and then we'll get into the audiobooks. Regarding Fugitive Prince specifically, for me, this was kind of a matter of timing because this is a really solid book. The character development continues. Again, it's book 4 of an 11-book series. However, it's book 1 in the 3rd arc. So there's 11 books in the series. There's 5 total arcs. Book 1 is its own arc. Books 2 and 3 is its own arc. And then books 3 through, I guess, 7 are their own arc. Or sorry, 4 through 8, rather, are their own arc. We could do the math later. We'll fix that in editing, right? Anyway, this is book 1 in the 3rd arc. So what does that really mean? It means that it's kind of a setup book for the remainder of the arc, and that can slow pacing down quite a bit. Another thing is that Janny Wirtz's writing is, we've described it on the channel before, as extraordinarily intentional. And insofar as there are a lot of words in a lot of sentences that really require the reader to slow down and absorb what she's saying so you really get the maximum impact. They're almost like little speed bumps on the road, but not in a bad way, just in a forced way for you to not miss what's happening in the books, because if you're not careful and you're just reading at the same pace you read every other book, you absolutely will miss critical details. You have to slow down when you read Wars of Light and Shadow. So, for me personally, I've been dealing with, if you've watched this channel much, a very huge loss in my personal life. And it was hard for me to sit and read for 20, 30 minutes at a clip very challenging epic fantasy material. It's still great. I still recommend it. I had a really good time with the book, but unlike the first 3 books where I would read for an hour or 2 at a time, I found myself really only being able to concentrate for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes at a clip, and so this book really took me about 2 weeks to finish. That's twice as long as most Janny Wirtz books takes me. So again, it's not, I'm going to pick it up again. Again, this isn't, to say that it's a slower reading book. It's just that for my personal kind of life situation, I had to read it slower to really get what I needed to get out of it, and it took me twice as long. Is it a good book? That's what you guys are here for. Is it a good book? Well, you guys, it's book 4 in a 11-book series that I'm going to read. So if it wasn't going to be a good book, I wouldn't be continuing with the series. It's an excellent book. Objectively, by all measures, it's a very good book. Do recommend, and I absolutely think if you are unsure about Janny Wirtz as an author, you've got 2 options. 1, go get yourself To Ride Hell's Chasm. It's a standalone book. You'll get a sense of what I'm talking about on how she writes. Then you can decide if it's for you or not. Or you could just pick up book 1 in the Wars of Light and Shadow called Curse of the Mistwraith, because that is its own arc. It's book 1 in the series, but it's also a standalone when it comes to the arcs, her 5 arcs of this whole Wars of Light and Shadow. You could read Curse of the Mistwraith and have a really good understanding if you want to continue or not. So either one of those 2 options is really good. Janny Wirtz is an author that's been writing for like 50 years, but she's really new to me in the last year and a half. And you talk about just a tremendous find. Treasure is out there. There's treasure in them there hills. I think maybe somebody once famous said, I don't know. It's a great book. Let me have a little bit of coffee, Mike style. See, Mike, I always copy you somewhere in the video. All right, let's talk about audiobooks. The first audiobook I listened to in July is called Discount Dan. Now, that is a strange title. I interviewed the author of this series. His name is James A. Hunter. I'm going to put a link right here, or a little card, and you can watch that interview. but I really did like Discount Dan. I'm not going to get into a whole big synopsis of it because it's a lot of lit RPG terms, and we did a video, we'll talk about it here in a little bit, that explains some of these lit RPG terms. But what you need to know is essentially we've got this guy who's been on a bachelor party, and by about page 2 or page 3, he no clips into a back room. Now, I know I just confused 99% of you. No clipping is kind of like if you think about a video game and the designers have designed your character to walk around a certain room. When you no clip, there's a bug in the game and you can slide kind of between the walls all of a sudden into this crazy space that has nothing to do with the game. That's what happens to our main character here. He no clips through a wall, essentially, of reality and into what's called a liminal space. I know I'm losing you here. Bear with me. A liminal space, I think of in terms of, like, if you've ever seen the show Severance before, they've got all these hallways that all look identical, and you could make lefts and rights, and it doesn't really matter. Everything looks the same, so it's really impossible to figure out where you are or get your bearings. Now imagine you're in a situation like that, but there's monsters around every corner trying to eat you, kill you, and or do something terrible. That's what we get with Discount Dan. It's great. He's such a funny guy, James Hunter, that his humor really shines in Discount Dan. I do recommend it. I'll have the books. Every book that I talk about will be linked in the description. And yeah, had a great time with that. By the way, I should probably say, if you like this kind of content, think about liking the video or maybe even consider subscribing to the channel and we can hang out a little bit more. All right, let's talk about the next book that I listened to. And again, we're back in, lit RPG here with He Who Fights with Monsters number 12. Not going to spend tons of time on this because it would be a very narrow audience for people that are watching this right now that are on book 12 of He Who Fights with Monsters. Needless to say, if I'm on book 12, I'm really liking it quite a bit. Lit RPG just as a whole, it's sold millions and millions and millions of books. And from talking to James Hunter, I learned that about 75% of lit RPG readers never cross over into fantasy or science fiction. They kind of stay over in their own corner, which is why you don't find a whole lot of channels out there like mine, like BellTube, that talks about that content, because there's not a lot of creators that read equal to both. I happen to because I love it. He Who Fights with Monsters, I liked it better than 11. I liked it better than 10. I don't remember what was in 9. It's a great series. It's by Travis Deverell, aka Shirta-Loon. The voice actor's name is escaping me right now, but he's fantastic. And I actually like the main character quite a bit more in this, probably over the last 3 or 4 books than I did in all the books combined. There's character growth, there's character development. Go figure. In lit RPG, there's actually themes and character development. There is, if you get the right lit RPG. That's what you come here for, and I will share that with you. Let's talk about the 6th book that I listened to, and this was actually a Patreon pick. So maybe I'll flash the Patreon card here and thank all the patrons of the channel. If you are interested in the Patreon, by the way, there's a link in the description. It's like $2 a month. We've got a really cool, intimate community, and we do a Patreon pick. And this time, Ron won the pick, and he selected for me to read a book called Chalky by John Wyndham. And Chalky was published in 1970. This is sci-fi for sure. I don't know that I would call it classic sci-fi, but it's certainly not modern sci-fi. I guess, as obvious as this sounds, it's 70s sci-fi. Did I like it? Well, it's a short book. It's less than 200 pages. It was less than, I want to say 4 or 5 4 or 5 hours on audio. And it was okay. It wasn't terrific. It wasn't horrible. It was just all right. I think the premise was kind of interesting, where we've got this child who is talking to what at first appears to be just a child's imaginary friend, but what the child is receiving for information could not be coming from his imagination. It couldn't be coming from an imaginary friend. There is a source of where he's coming up with some of the things he's saying. And over the course of this relatively short novel, we figure out that it's not coming from Earth, it's coming from somewhere else, and from somebody else named our titular character, Chalky. I don't know how well I can recommend this book. I think if you really like science fiction and you can carve out time to, rip out a couple hundred pages quickly, it might be worth a read. I don't personally see myself recommending this one a lot just because I wasn't wowed by the story. I'll give you an example. Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End wowed me. I thought about that book for days after I read it. For Chalky, when I got done listening to it, I was like, oh, okay, it was fine. It wasn't terrific. It wasn't awful. It was fine. I get why it was a Patreon book, just to kind of explore a little bit about maybe some genre fiction in the 70s that does feel a little dated to me, but at the same time, it sort of holds up. I know I'm being a little wishy-washy on it. Can you guess what's not winning my book of the month? Yeah, Chalky did not win the book of the month this year. I hate this month. I hate to spoil that. But let's talk about the book of the month. Because the book of the month, I've never really done this before. It's not a tie. I want to talk about objective versus subjective book of the month for me, because objectively, by all kind of metrics, when it comes to prose, when it comes to character arcs, when it comes to just writing talent, when it comes to the depth of the story, by every objective metric, the book of the month should be Fugitive Prince, okay? So if I was judging a contest like I did with Spiffbo, objectively speaking, this is the best book that I read in July. However, I am not judging a competition this month. I want to talk about what I enjoyed the most. And if you couldn't hear it in my voice before, the book that I subjectively enjoyed the most, the book that is subjectively my book of the month, is While Darkness Gathers by Philip Chase. I had a blast with this book. And again, subjectively speaking, my brain could easily focus on 5 to 7 pages at a time for a full chapter, whereas in Fugitive Prince, I didn't always have the 40 pages in my mind to do a full chapter, or just in my own ability. So, objectively speaking, I know this is a little wishy-washy, objectively speaking, Fugitive Prince, Janny Ward's Light and Shadow, it's probably the better book, but for me personally, book of the month. Once again, I'm going to show it because it's such a cool cover. While Darkness Gathers, the standalone after the Attn trilogy. Let's talk about some videos that I did on the channel, then we'll do a one for the road. So for videos in July, I did a Lit RPG explanation video. This video is not really intended for veterans of, Lit RPG as a genre. This video is the basics of the basics. This is for everybody that is all of a sudden hearing about Dungeon Crawler Carl like crazy for the last year or two, or The Wandering Inn, or Cradle, or He Who Fights with Monsters, etc., etc. That one was for you, Sylvia. Anyway, I did a Lit RPG explanation video. It's right here. I'll put a little link or a little card right there if the system will allow it, and you'll be able to figure that out there. I also did my August TBR, what I'm reading right now in August, and yes, Malazan is back. Watch that video. It's in the BellTube catalog if you like, and you'll find out exactly what I'm reading this month. Lastly, I also did a 10 books I would reread video. That came out last week, and I just want to say a giant shout out and welcome to all the new subscribers of BellTube that came from that video, because I don't know why, but there's like 7,500 views on that video, which I thought to be a pretty pedestrian video for me, but at the same time, it's like an outlier. It's like 5 times the amount of views over the last 5 days than all of our normal videos. Maybe it's because I'm just a notorious non-rereader that, people wanted to find out what I would actually read again. Maybe rereading is a question that a lot of people kind of, struggle with. Do I want to reread an old favorite, or do I just want to go on to the next story because I already know what happens in the book I'm contemplating rereading? So that's a really interesting video. Again, I just did that one last week, and welcome to, I want to say, around 200 new subscribers from that video alone, and that got us past the 5,000 subscriber mark, so thank you for that. I've got a very cool video coming out for the 5,000 subscriber kind of celebration. We'll get to that later, I suppose. hose. We also did one episode of For Whom the Bell Tolls, and that was with the amazing John Rammel. His channel is called Rammel Broadcasting. I will link it in the description below as well. If you've not seen Rammel Broadcasting, you're missing out. You got to check it out. This is a sole kind of a one-man band like I'm doing. He's writing the content, he's filming the video, he's editing the video, and he's polishing that video. It is one of the best looking channels you're going to find on BookTube in any genre, and John is only getting better because he does something like I do. We are one of the few kind of booktubers that watch our own videos back. Not because we're so like, oh, I want to watch myself on camera, but because we're trying to identify what's good about this video, what could be improved about this video, and how can I make a small incremental improvement next week that the video will be even better. John and I have a very simpatico kind of thought on that, and it was just a pleasure to talk to him. I can't wait to talk to him more. He's quickly becoming just a really good pal for me on YouTube, and we've had some great communications. I should also say For Whom the Bell Tolls is now on the BellTube homepage in its own kind of area under podcasts. So there's a whole podcast playlist now that if you're relatively new to the channel and you don't even know what I'm talking about with For Whom the Bell Tolls, it's a live interview show that I discuss books and all other kinds of topics with a ton of booktubers. Many of them I promise you've seen before, but they may not have been asked these particular questions ever on any channel, period. It's something I take a ton of pride in, that we want to really get into the depths of who we're talking to. I prepare a ton, we ask lots of questions, we involve chat in the live engagement. It gets lots of replay views. Anyway, For Whom the Bell Tolls, long story short, is now on the homepage in a podcast playlist, and I will soon be uploading those to both Apple Music and Spotify at some point in August. Now, I want to do a one for the road today, and one for the road is going to be about rest versus laziness. Now, I know what you're thinking. Actually, I have no idea what you're thinking. I don't know why I said that. Let's talk about rest versus laziness. In my own life, I have always associated rest to being lazy, and it's stupid. And I can't believe I'm as old as I am. And for whatever reason, because I tend to kind of have some overachiever types of tendencies, I don't let myself ever really get recuperative rest, and I'm always moving on to the next thing and the next thing. But the problem is you really can't give all of yourself when you don't take ample time to rest and recuperate. I thought about a couple sports analogies. I'm a big sports fan, and I was like, even the best NBA players in basketball generally don't play every single minute of every single game of the season. They, play their plays, they go sit on the bench for a while, they regroup, they get their breath back, they get their kind of body back in order, so when the, coach, points at them and sends them back out on the court, they're a little bit more refreshed to do a better job. I also thought about track and field for a minute, and I'll get to my point here in a minute, but I just want to give you a couple examples. I thought about track and field, and if you think about a relay race, right, where they're running around the track, and say it's a 4-person relay. Imagine you've got one group of people that have those 4 people doing that race around the track, and they're handing that baton off as they come around the bend each time, versus just one dude or one gal who's running around the track 4 times by themselves with nobody to hand the baton off to, right? And it's not because they didn't have anybody to do it with, it's just they chose to do it by themselves. Would that make any sense? No, of course it wouldn't make any sense. No one person is going to run that track 4 times and think that they can outrun 4 people who are on totally fresh legs. So what's my point of this one for the road? It's that it's incredibly important to take some rest time to recuperate your mind, your energy, your own spirituality. Even your finances sometimes can, improve if you just take a moment to sit back without rushing to make a bunch of decisions. It's something that I've learned really late in life, and I know a lot of the viewers of this channel are younger than I am. I mean, I think most of the world's, not that old. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I think that There's probably a handful of people out there that are like me, that are kind of leaning towards the overachiever type of mentality. And when you think about taking a break, you think about it as not making progress. And I'm here to tell you, you can't make progress unless you take some rest, unless you take some breaks. That's what I read in July. I'm curious to know, what'd you read in July? You know, I get so many of my TBR selections right off your comments. I will meet you in the comments. I answer everyone myself. You guys know that already. Again, welcome to everybody who's new to the channel. We have a blast here. I'm excited that you're here. Stay positive, everybody. And of course, here's your fortune.